What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical average American here today to react and learn about the history of Japan. Now, honestly, growing up in America, in the United States, we were really not taught much of anything about Japanese history at all. And I don't really understand why that is. I mean, I think in America, we really focus on American things. And in American history class, we were taught American history, and we were taught about things that directly affected America and stuff about us, but not much about other cultures. And in particular, we were not taught about Japanese culture and the history of Japan. So I don't really know anything about Japanese history at all. I don't know how old Japan is. I don't know anything about when historical dates and significant historical events took place in Japan and all that stuff. But today, I'd like to correct that by learning all about the history of Japan. So with that being said, let's take a look.
Japan is an island by the sea filled with volcanoes, and it's beautiful.
What? Okay, Japan is beautiful. That's the first thing I'm learning. And there's volcanoes, apparently. Are there a lot of volcanoes in Japan? I didn't know I was going to be learning that today.
In the year negative a billion, Japan might not have been here. In the year negative 40,000, it was here, and you could walk to it, and some people walked to it. Then
Whoa. Wait. Japan used to be connected to, like, the mainland of Asia? And people, well, I guess people had to get to the island of Japan at some point, huh? In early history? I never thought about it like that. Was that connected because of ice? Because it was cold?
it got warmer, some icebergs melted, it became an island, and now there's lots of trees because it's warmer.
Okay.
So now there's people on the island. They're basically sort of hanging out in between the mountains, eating nuts off trees, and using the latest technology, like...
I didn't know that this video was gonna be kind of funny, but I'm not upset. I like it. So people traveled to the Japan, and it became an island when the ice melted, and now they're using stones and other technology.
Stones and bowls. Ding dong, it's the outside world, and they have technology from the future, like really good metal and crazy rice farms. Now you can make a lot of rice really quickly. That means if you own the farm, you own a lot of food, which is something everybody needs to survive. So that makes you king. Rice farming and rice kingdoms spread across the land, all the way to here.
Oh, so in early Japan, the amount of power that you had and influence basically depended on how much access to technology and farming rice and other stuff like that. Basically, how much you could control the technology was how powerful you were in early Japan, which makes sense.
Most important kingdoms were here, and here.
Oh, hold on. This is all stuff like I've never heard of. Hai, Shikushi, Izumo, Kibi, Yamato, Koshi, Kenu. I'm sure I am absolutely not pronouncing those correctly. I'm sorry, but I'm glad I'm at least aware of these names now.
But this one was the most important, ruled by a heavenly superperson, or emperor for short.
Emperor, okay, and that's called Yamato. Okay, ruled by the emperor.
Knock knock, get the door, it's religion. The new prince wants everyone to try this hot new religion from Biekt. Please try this religion, he said. No, said everybody. Try it, he said. No, said everybody again, quieter this time.
Oh my god. So this is a funny way to teach Japanese history, but I'm enjoying it actually. So this was when like Buddhism was starting to become popular in Japan. Or at first it wasn't very popular, but the emperor was trying to make Buddhism popular.
And so the religion was put into place, and all the rules that came with it. Then the government was taken over by another clique, and they made some reforms, like making the government govern more, and making the government more like China's government, which is a government that governs more.
What? Who was this?
And all the rules that came with it. Then the government was taken over.
This was in 645.
Over by another.
And the government was taken over by Naka no Emperor Kotoku? and Nakatomi no Kamatari. I'm trying my best to pronounce this correctly. This is very interesting, and a lot of people that I've never heard of.
Click, and they made some reforms, like making the government govern more, and making the government more like China's government, which is a government that governs more.
So the government became, like, more involved with, like, ruling Japan, like, bigger.
Hi, China, they said. Hi, dipshit, said China. Can you call us something else other than dipshit, said Japan. Like what, said China.
What?
How about Sunrise Land?
I don't know about the relationship between Japan and China. I hope China didn't say anything quite that mean, to be honest. But Japan became known as Sunrise Land. Is that what Nihon means? That's a very beautiful name, by the way. Sunrise Land. Also, very nice.
Japan. And they stole China's alphabet and wrote a book about themselves. And then they made lots of poetry and art and another book about themselves. Then they stopped.
I like how we're just skipping over hundreds of years of like language development and developing the Japanese writing system, I guess, and characters and poetry and art and all that. And now we're to 640.
Moving the capital every time the emperor died and kept it in one place for a while, right here. And
every time the emperor died, the capital of Japan moved? Oh my gosh.
about themselves. Then they stopped moving. Get that squared away. A rich hipster in one place for a while, right here. And they conquered the north, finally. Get that squared away.
Conquered the north? Oh, that sounds like a whole historical event I would have to learn more about. Was northern Japan, like, independent? And it took a while for it to, like, come under, like, the rule of southern Japan and the emperor? I'm guessing, based on this.
A rich hipster named Kukai is bored with modern Buddhism, visits China, and learns a better version, which is more spiritual.
Zen Buddhism, okay.
Comes back, reinvents the alphabet, and causes art and literature to be great for a long time.
Okay, so, oh my gosh, so the Japanese writing system changes again. The religion changes again to Zen Buddhism. Oh my gosh, Japanese history is fantastic. So fascinating. So much stuff. And so much stuff that I have never, ever heard about. Like, this is great. I don't know why they didn't teach us this when I was a little kid, but I'm very glad to learn it now.
And the royal palace turned into such a dream world of art that they really didn't give a shit about running the country.
Okay.
So if you live outside the palace, how are you supposed to protect your shit from criminals?
Right.
Hire a samurai.
This video is very funny. Okay, samurai. I don't know much about samurai. They're a very popular idea in the United States. Like, it's something every American has heard of, samurai, and we know what they look like, and that they have swords and armor, but I don't know much more than that.
Everyone started hiring samurai. Rich, important people hired samurai.
Okay.
Poor people who could not afford to hire samurai did not hire samurai.
So they were like bodyguards. They were like hired to protect your stuff if you were rich.
The samurai became organized and powerful, more powerful than the government, so they made their own military government.
What?
Here, they let the emperor still be emperor, but the shogun is actually in control.
Wait, what? I have never heard of this. The samurai in Japan banded together and were so powerful as an entity. They were called the shogun, or the leader was the shogun. But what were they called?
Military government.
Shogunate, military government. In the year 1192, they were basically more powerful than the actual Japanese government. Wow. Okay, this is so cool.
Here, they let the emperor still be emperor, but the shogun is actually in control.
Okay.
Breaking news, the Mongols have invaded China.
We've invaded China,
said the Mongols.
Please respect us, or else we might invade you as well.
Okay, said Japan. So the Mongols came over, ready for war, and died in a tornado. But
What? What? I don't understand. So the Mongols tried to invade Japan by, like, traveling over the ocean to the island of Japan and were killed by a tornado. I don't know if that is a joke or if that's real.
But they tried again and had a nice time fighting with the Japanese, but then died in a tornado. Then the emperor overthrows the shogunate. Then the shogunate overthrows him back and moves to Kyoto and makes a new shogunate. And the
Oh my gosh, there is so much stuff that happened. I'm sure you could go into a lot more detail, but this is, like, very, very interesting overview of history of Japan. The emperor overthrowing the samurai overthrowing the emperor. Wow.
The emperor.
Japan just has a much, much, much longer history than the United States. So a lot more stuff has happened in Japan, like over the course of thousands of years, than in America.
Can still dress like an emperor if he wants, that's fine. Now there's more art. Like painting with less colors, collaborative poetry, plays, monkey fun, tea parties, gardening, architecture, flowers. It's time for who's going to be the next shogun. Usually it's the shogun's kid, but the shogun doesn't have a kid, so he tries to get his brother to quit being a monk and be the next shogun. He says okay, but then the shogun has a kid. So now who's it gonna be?
Oh my gosh. I wonder what these people's names were. What an interesting... So the shogun, that's like the leader of the shogunate, the samurai that had banded together, were having trouble deciding who their next leader was going to be.
Vote now on your phones. And everyone voted so hard that the palace caught on fire and burned down. The shogun actually didn't care. He was off somewhere doing poetry. And the whole country broke into pieces.
Oh, wow. This resulted... So this event of not knowing who the next leader of Japan would be resulted in, like, all of Japan fracturing into different areas.
Everyone is fighting with each other for local power, and it's anybody's game.
Wow.
Knock knock, it's Europe. No, they're not here to take over. They just want to sell some shit, like clocks and guns.
See, this is another thing. Like, I didn't know that the Europeans traveled to Japan and did trade. Like, I didn't know any of that either.
And Jesus. So that's cool.
And they tried to spread Christianity, of course.
But everyone's still fighting each other for control, now with guns. And
So this is like a Japanese civil war, sort of? Like, all of Japan is broken up into all these regions, fighting over, like, who will control what parts of Japan, basically.
Wouldn't it be nice to control the capital, which right now is puppets, with no one controlling them?
Huh.
This clan is ready to make a run for it, but first they have to trample this smaller clan, which is in the way. Surprise, the smaller clan wins, and the leader of that clan steals the idea of invading the capital and invades the capital. And it goes very well. He's about halfway through conquering Japan when someone who works for him kills him. And then
Oh my gosh, you couldn't make this up. This is like the most crazy story ever.
someone else who works for him kills them, and that guy
he killed the guy trying to become emperor, and then the other guy killed the next guy who killed the emperor.
finishes conquering Japan. And then he confiscated everybody's sword.
Oh, okay, here we go. This is who ended up becoming the emperor?
Someone else who works for him kills them, and that guy
Toyotomi Hideyoshi assassinated someone who assassinated someone, and he became emperor?
finishes conquering Japan. And then he confiscated everybody's swords and made some rules. And now I'm going to invade Korea and then hopefully China, he said, and failed, and also died. But
He tried to invade Korea and China. I never heard of that.
before he died, he told these 5 guys to take care of his 5-year-old son until he's old enough to be the next ruler of Japan. And the 5 guys said, yeah, right, it's not going to be this kid. It's going to be one of us, because we're grown-ups. And it's probably going to be this guy. Who happens to be way more rich and powerful than the others.
Tokugawa Ieyasu.
A lot of people support him, but a lot of people support not supporting him. They have a fight, and he wins, and starts a new government, right here. And
Edo. I've heard of Edo, Japan. I've actually heard that name. Are we finally getting a little close to modern day, like 2023?
he still lets the emperor dress like an emperor and have very nice things. But don't get confused. This is the new government, and they are very strict. So strict they closed the country. No one can leave, and no one can come in.
Japan was closed in the 1600s? Like closed off to anyone trying to visit?
Except for the Dutch, if they want to buy and sell shit. But they
Except for the Dutch. Okay.
have to do it right here. Now that the entire country was not at war with itself, the population increased a lot. Business increased, schools were built, roads were built, everyone learned to read, books were published, there was poetry, plays, sexy...
Okay, so at this point in time...
Schools were... Now that the entire country was not at war with itself...
This was like the 1600s, 1700s. We're getting pretty close to modern day. This is where, like, a whole lot of Japanese expansion and technological breakthroughs and infrastructure started getting built, and the population skyrocketed as well.
Read, books were published, there was poetry, plays, sexy times, puppet shows, and Dutch studies. People started to study European science from books they bought from the Dutch.
Okay.
We're talking geography, skeletons, physics, chemistry, astronomy, and maybe even electricity.
Oh, so I was wondering this because Japan is an island, and it was cut off from a lot of the rest of the world, like especially back before the internet and like, lots of, airplanes and other ways of communicating with the rest of the world. So it was actually thanks to the Dutch that they brought a lot of stuff for the Japanese people to start learning about all different parts of science and technology.
Over time, the economic and cultural prosperity began to gradually slow down. Knock, knock. It's the United States, with huge boats, with guns, gunboats. Open the country. Stop having it be closed, said the United States.
Oh, no.
There's really nothing they could do, so they signed a contract that lets United States, Britain, and Russia visit Japan anytime they want. Chushu and
See, they don't even teach us about that in American, like, elementary school. When we're little American children in history. They don't even teach us about this. This basically forced agreement to reopen Japan. That the United States sailed to Japan and did that. Like, nah, I didn't know any of that. Like, what the heck?
Satsuma hated this. That sucks, they said. This sucks. And with almost very little outside help, they overthrew the shogunate and somehow made the emperor again and moved him to Edo, which they renamed Eastern Capital.
Okay.
They made a new government, which was a lot more Western. They made a new constitution.
Oh, wow. So a lot is happening now because of this. Japan is completely reorganizing itself and reorganizing the government of Japan.
Was pretty Western, and a military that was pretty Western. And do you know what else is Western? That's right, it's conquering stuff. So what can we conquer? Korea. They conquer Korea, taking it from its previous owner, China, and then
I had no idea that Japan conquered Korea.
go a little bit further, and Russia rushes in out of nowhere and says, "Stop, no, you can't take that. We were going to build a railroad through here to try to get some more water." And Russia builds their railroad, supervised by a shit ton of soldiers. And then when the railroad was done, they downgraded to a fuck ton. Did I say downgrade? I meant upgrade. And Japan says, "Can you maybe chill?" And Russia says, "How about maybe you chill?" Japan is kind of scared of Russia. You'll never guess who's also kind of scared of Russia. Great Britain. So Japan and Great Britain make an alliance together so they can be a little less scared of Russia. Feeling confident,
Okay.
Japan goes to war against Russia, just for a moment, and then they both get tired and stop.
The Russo-Japanese War. Another historical event that I have never heard of. A war between Japan and Russia, somewhat over this railroad getting built, somewhat over who owns Korea, I guess? Wow.
And stop. It's time for World War I. The
Yeah.
world is about to have a war, because it's the 1900s and weapons are getting crazy, and all these empires are excited to try them out on each other. Meanwhile, Japan has been enjoying conquering stuff and wants more. And the next thing on their list is...
I didn't know that Japan was also trying to, like, expand as well. That's interesting.
is this part of China and lots of tiny islands. All that
Oh, lots of islands and a little part of China. Huh.
stuff belongs to Germany, which just had war declared on it by Britain because Britain was friends with Belgium, which was being trespassed by Germany in order to get to France to kick France's ass because France is friends with Russia, who was getting
Oh my
ready to kick
God.
Austria's ass because Austria was getting ready to kick Serbia's ass because someone from Serbia shot the leader of Austria's ass. Or actually shot him in the head. And Britain is currently friends with Japan, so you know what that means. Duh, Japan should take the islands. Which they wanted to do anyway, so they called Britain on the telly to sort of let them know. And then they did it. And they also helped Britain a little here and there with some errands and stuff.
Does Japan still like own those islands to the south, like to this day, or what?
Now the war is over, and congratulations, Japan. You technically fought in the war, which means you get to sit at the negotiating table with the big dudes, where they decided who owns what. And yes, Japan gets to keep all that shit they stole from Germany.
Oh, there you go. That's exactly what I was wondering.
You also get to join the post-war mega alliance, the League of Nations,
Right.
whose mission statement is to try not to take over the world. The Great Depression is bad, and Japan's economy is now crappy, but the military is doing just fine, and it invades Manchuria. And the League of Nations is like, no, don't do that. If you're in the League of Nations, you're not supposed to take over the world.
Man, Japan kept trying to go back and conquer all this area. Like I had never heard about any of this, that Japan tried to conquer all this extra territory. It's very interesting.
And Japan said, how about I do anyway? And Japan invaded more and more and more and more of China. And
Wait, Japan was that gigantic at one point? Like that's an enormous amount of land.
was planning to invade the entire East.
You've got mail.
It's from Germany, the new leader of Germany. He has a cool mustache and he's trying to take over the world and needs friends. This also got forwarded to Italy.
Here we go.
They all decided to be friends because they had so much in common. It's time for World War II.
Okay, so that had a lot to do with Japan's involvement in World War II, that Japan was trying to expand into these regions of Asia and stuff like that. Okay.
Germany is invading the neighbors. Then they invade the neighbors' neighbors. Then the neighbors' neighbors' neighbors, who happened to be Britons, said, holy shit. And the United States started helping Britain because they are good friends, and started not helping Japan because they're friends and our friends are not friends. Plus they're planning on invading the entire ocean. The United States is also working on a large, very huge bomb.
Yeah, okay, so now we're getting into stuff that we were finally taught in American classes when we were children. We were taught about World War II and stuff like this, and our involvement and Japan.
Bigger than any other bomb, ever. Just in case. But they still haven't joined the war. War looks bad on TV, and the United States is really starting to care about their image. But then Japan spits on them in Hawaii and challenges them to war.
Right,
and they say yes.
Right, Pearl Harbor, yes.
And then Germany, as a symbol of friendship, declares war on the United States also. So the United States goes to war in Europe, and they help the gang chase Germany back into Germany. And they also start chasing Japan back into Japan. And they haven't used the bomb yet, and
so during that whole conflict is when Japan was kind of forced to constrict it back into basically the island of Japan.
Curious to see if it works, so they drop it on Japan. They actually drop 2.
Yeah, we are taught about this. We Americans are definitely taught about this part of history. Obviously a horrible, terrible loss of life. Like, very, very sad.
The United States installed a new government, inspired by the United States government, with just the right ingredients for a post-war economic miracle. And Japan starts making TVs, VCRs, automobiles.
I did not know that America helped rebuild Japan's government.
The United States installed a new government, inspired by the United States government.
I did not know that. I didn't know about America's involvement in the Japanese government. See, this is why I'm like, why are we not taught more about this kind of stuff? Like, I really don't get it. It's very important.
With just the right ingredients for a post-war economic miracle. And Japan starts making TVs, VCRs, automobiles, and camcorders as fast as they can.
Yeah.
And also better than everybody else.
Yeah. Now Japan starts just absolutely killing it and like kicking everyone's butt at all these different technologies.
They get rich, and the economy goes wild. And then the miracle wears off. But everything's still pretty cool, I guess. Bye.
Nintendo? Oh, that's it. It really did end with Nintendo, Mario, and anime.
Pretty cool, I guess.
That's where it leaves off. There you have it. Wow, the history of Japan, man. This video that we watched has been viewed like 80 million times. So I guess a lot of people have learned about the history of Japan from this video. And honestly, I enjoyed this a lot. This was by Bill Wirtz, and I'm gonna give it a like, because that was very, very funny, but it was also very, very informative. There are so many events in Japanese history that go back thousands of years that I have never heard of till today. So this was very, very, very educational. Very good. I think it's so important for me and other Americans to learn about Japanese culture and actually broaden our horizons beyond just what we're taught in America. So I really, really appreciated this. I'm sure there's a lot more to Japanese history that didn't get talked about, but as a general overview of the history of Japan, this was great. This was so helpful, and I enjoyed it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Japan and Japanese culture and stuff about Japan that I have never learned before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.